Welcome to the Necronama.com, where we're spending all of October looking at 31 episodes of The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror. Today, we're looking at Treehouse 14 from November 2nd, 2003. I am James Sabata.
I'm Don Guillory.
And I used to be Thomas Brungardt.
Those were the days.
Guys, number 14.
2 weeks in.
This is another situation where I like the intro better than the whole episode, because I liked the Peanuts intro, and I loved King and Kodos Christmas.
Yes.
And you know what? We forgot to mention King and Kodos in the last episode, because they show up at the end, and they're just observing the island down, and of course make their snarky remarks. But in this one, they're at the beginning, observing from the spaceship, and it actually, which is funny because they're bitching about how the Halloween special is in November.
Yes.
Which is always fun. I mean, which is always interesting to me because in August, where I am, Halloween decorations were already being put in the stores, which is great. But then you go a couple of aisles over, and there's already this little thing of Christmas decoration, like a smaller one. But I'm like, dude, it's August. Why? But at least right now, it's the appropriate time to have all the Halloween decorations out and up. And definitely, if you're one of those people who skips over Halloween for Christmas and you've got your stuff out right now, you're the worst kind of person.
Hey, I'm decorated year round for Thanksgiving.
Is that no decoration?
No decorations, and there's just a pot of gravy that's always simmering.
But it's the same pot of gravy, so it's a little weird.
It's breakfast gravy. And if it's dinner time, it's dinner gravy. It's the same gravy.
All right, so on that note. So Reaper Madness. I like this one. It's basically Death shows up. Homer accidentally takes him out and then puts on his robe and becomes the Grim Reaper and gets to go around killing people. And then he's told to kill Marge and he refuses. So instead I'm going to fuck this up. Which sister does he use?
Patty.
Patty, yeah.
Patty.
And so he fakes everybody out and uses Patty's body as Marge, and then God's confused and thinks it's Selma.
I think it's kind of cool because is this the first time they've taken something from Family Guy?
Oh, when Peter becomes Death?
Yeah.
I guess that does predate it because that was first season? That was 99, 2000. So yeah, this would be after that. Yeah, I guess they did. They kind of stole this bit.
Well, they definitely did a better job of it.
You think so?
I think they did a better job because the thing is with the Family Guy episode, it was the joke ran way too long.
Yeah.
Especially the fact that Death wasn't killed or dispatched. He rolled his ankle or sprained his ankle or whatever, which is funny in its own right because you're just talking about somebody who's just made of bones as opposed to tendon and connective tissue. But yeah, I think they did it better with The Simpsons because it was shorter, it was more condensed. I mean, I like this one.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen the Family Guy one, but I mean, I like this, but I don't know, it's nothing special either. I do like the joke of using one of Marge's sisters as her, and because
Marge doesn't care.
Yeah, and Marge rewards him with pork chops.
An extra.
And then he's like, "Oh, I'll try not to kill you every week," which is a hilarious joke because they're actually on every week. So it becomes meta, only it's not because they didn't mean it that way at all.
So who becomes Death after Homer isn't Death anymore?
Probably Ned.
Yeah, I was waiting for that. I was waiting at the beginning, waiting for the Grim Reaper to just be Ned again. And it wasn't. Doesn't he kill Ned? Does he kill? No, he doesn't kill Ned in this one. would have been a good opportunity for him to do that.
Well, here's the funny thing with this. I mean, because the Simpsons make a lot of jokes at the expense of religion and things like that. But I like the whole idea that he's tricked God into believing that Patty is actually Marge, right? Gets him up there, and then all of a sudden, after this tractor beam that is taking her into heaven, fake Marge into heaven, he realizes, like, what is this? And Homer has a fucking motorcycle hidden in the bushes and is escaping God's death ray. And once he jumps past a train, God says that I'm too old and too rich for this, which is fucking hilarious because of, the whole idea that, why even bother? Like, oh, that was a good one, Homer. You got me. Like, I'm going to follow you around with my death beam. All right. You know the question I'm going to ask. If you were
who would I kill to save my wife? Let me think. All right, go ahead.
Oh, good. That's it. Go.
That's the question.
What you were going to ask?
Well, I was going to ask who would you kill first, but I mean that question I think is even better. Or
who would I kill first?
Actually, who would you kill first, and would you accept this job being able to I guess, because you're not really killing them, you're just delivering them.
That changes my answer.
But you have the power to kill. You know what I mean? As far as the job itself is delivering the dead, right? But you can actually kill people too. So if you had the choice to kill, who would you kill? And then, of course, your question, James, who would you kill to save your partner?
I mean, I would actually really like the job. And not because I get to kill people, but I feel like one of my superpowers is being there for people at the worst moments of their lives. And it brings me a lot of joy to help people in those situations because I've had a lot of those situations and I know how I feel about the people who were there for me during them. And so I honestly think that it would be a really cool job to have. And if we're assigned jobs in the afterlife, maybe I can get that one.
Okay.
That's cool. The first person I'd kill is the first person I'd see talking on FaceTime in like a grocery store.
They deserve to die.
I'm going
put that shit away.
Mask.
Well, I wanted to say that I think this really shows Homer's selfishness, where he says, like, "Oh, I'll kill anyone except for Marge," and then it changes to his own name, and he's like, "Oh, I'm not going to do that." So clearly, he's still not a good person. Not that he ever was.
He's never going to get into heaven.
But what if he's worried about leaving Marge by herself? Like, maybe what if that's part of the reason?
No, I don't think so.
What would he be worried about? Like, he just makes her life more complicated. So is he worried it'd be too easy now?
Look, even when he's having that moment of I guess the fear of his own mortality with the Fugu episode where he's the blowfish or believes that he's eating the blowfish poison. He's still, and even other episodes for that matter, he's like, how are they gonna make it without me? So I could kind of see it from that standpoint. But I mean, Homer is very selfish, but I could also see it from the standpoint of like, I can't leave them.
No, I don't know about that. My favorite Homer about to die quote is, I think it's right before his triple bypass surgery, and he says to Marge in bed the night before, "Marge, if I die, I promise you'll do one thing." And then she says, "Sure, Homer, whatever you want." And then he just says, "Blow up the hospital." So I don't think he cares about the family. I just think he wants vengeance on whatever kills him.
Oh, I got to mention my favorite line in this episode. It's Homer's like screaming about how much they'll miss Death and what a good guy Death was. And he says, "And you made NASCAR racing fun."
That's a terrible joke. I mean, I appreciate
holy shit.
People always make the whole like, "Oh, a NASCAR driver's dying" joke. I've heard them all over the years. Yeah, I can see why that joke's funny. It's not funny when people die, but
it's not even that I find it funny. I was literally like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you went there."
Oh yeah. Well, we didn't talk about my favorite part of the episode was the Benny Hill chase scene.
Oh man,
where like the Grim Reaper's just chasing Bart around the house, and it's the Benny Hill music. I like that joke. It was a good joke. Should we move on to the second one?
Let's do it.
The second one was Frankenstein, a la Frankenstein. Professor Frink wins the Nobel Prize for a hammer that has a screwdriver on the other side of it because it was a slow year. This is from memory. He has unresolved daddy issues for the dad that never loved him for him. So he was killed by a shark, and he decides to reanimate him with robotic parts like a cyborg. And the dad ends up having organ lust and starts harvesting organs and body parts and appendages from other people around town until he becomes this Frankenstein monster. And then Frank has to kill him because they're at the Nobel Peace Prize award ceremony, and he just starts harvesting brains from all of the nerds. And the only note that I wrote for this act was, in all caps, dumb.
How can it be dumb with that many brains piled on top of each other, huh?
Oh, I hated it. It was so stupid. I liked seeing Flanders die again. We had a Flanders death in this in this bit, and I like a Frank story, but they tried so hard to make this work, and it just didn't. And Don, there's a line in this one that I wanted to get your thoughts on. When they're at, for whatever reason, the Simpsons are also at the Nobel Peace Prize award ceremony in Stockholm, where there's a nude woman directing traffic, but he's ripping the brains out of the heads, and then Marge says, "Well, this is more violent than the Hip Hop Awards."
Oh,
can we talk about
Thomas,
that?
No, the Hip Hop Awards were something else in the late 90s, early 2000s. There were fights that broke out.
Like legitimate
fights. like brawls. And I remember one specific year. It might have been 2001, 2002. But yeah, there were some things that went down.
So that was era appropriate.
Oh yeah, big time.
At the time,
because I still remember
it feels a little
There's like a still image of somebody getting stomped out. So
oh, fair enough. It just felt a little off the cuff and a little bit stereotypical, not having the frame of reference that you've given me. So
yeah, it was 2000. I'm sorry, I said 2001, 2002. It was 2000. Like there was a big fight.
Gotcha.
Huh. My favorite part of this episode is the only part of this skit that I like, and it's just one line, well, two lines, I guess. It's "Lost your spine, huh? You just keep finding new ways to disappoint me." And that just cracked me up. That was amazing. I was like, that's my dad right there.
All right, so I guess we could move on to the last one.
We will stop the world then.
Yes. Stop the world. I want to goof off. So this one is basically a parody of a Twilight Zone episode, the kind of stopwatch, where Bart and Milhouse send off for a magic stopwatch in some comic book or something. So 49 cents, they send it off, they get it, and the advertisement states that, you can stop time with it, right? Because there used to be all these nice little ads in magazines for kids, that advertised all these goofy things you could get in comic books, for that matter. All these goofy things that you could get. And the most famous one, of course, being the X-ray glasses or X-ray specs. But this one's advertising that it's able to stop time. And when the boys get it, they figure, this would be great to do pranks, So they pull down Skinner's pants. They take donuts away from Homer. They put Lisa's finger in her nose. They keep doing all this other stuff until the city catches on and catches them. And they break the watch and have to spend, I think, like 15 years or something fixing the watch, and push the button to start time again. And everyone is stuck back where they were I'm sorry, everyone is still in the mindset of where they were 15 years prior, and are trying to figure out, what the hell's going on, especially when they come home and Bart is a 25-year-old man. I like this episode because it makes me think a lot of, at least makes me speculate as to what I would probably do. There used to be a TV show in the 80s or early 90s. I can't remember what it was called, but I know the girl was like a witch or practiced magic or some shit. And she would put her 2 index fingers together to stop time. And she would use it to do any number of things. Like there's an accident that's going to happen. So she, puts her fingers together to stop the accident and like makes an adjustment to somebody's car or whatever. Or she wants to cheat in softball. So she's getting the pitch and puts her fingers together and she repositions her bat so she can knock a home run. It's a very simple episode, but what do you guys think about this one?
Yeah, I feel like it's been done elsewhere better. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't overly care about it, but I didn't think it was bad by any means. I don't know. It kind of works. It feels like exactly what it's intended to be, which is a little throwaway skit on the Halloween special. And sometimes I honestly feel like I'm too hard on these episodes because if you really break it down, it's supposed to give us that feeling of Halloween, sharing ghost stories and scary stories and that kind of shit, right? And in that way, I think it works really well. But overall, it's not memorable to me in any way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's nothing special about this. And it's like that era where there was a ton of movies like this is the same time that like Clock Stoppers came out, which was just another shitty time-stopping movie. And it just felt really like lazy. Like all the jokes in it are lazy and for me, like this is like indicative of the show at the time. Like this era of The Simpsons is just a dip in the quality. And it's frustrating to me because this is when they started opening the season with a Treehouse of Horror. This was like the first episode of season 15. And it's just like, would you really want to watch the next week? Like, would you want to keep watching new episodes if this is what you're watching? Like, I don't think that... I definitely didn't, so I know I wouldn't have. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Maybe TV worked different because we weren't streaming it or recording it constantly. So maybe you were like, oh, shit, a new season started? And then you start on the next episode.
Yeah, possibly. That's a good point. I think TiVo was around at this point, though.
Oh, man.
Yes.
For you rich people.
I didn't have TiVo. I had Web TV. If you guys remember Web TV.
We had spiderwebs on our TV sometimes.
I don't remember Web TV.
Web TV was basically you had a computer, like a desktop computer, but instead of using a monitor, you used your TV.
Oh, shit. It
was a box that would go like under your cable box. And
right.
It was just a computer that you used your TV for. That's all it was.
Huh. I literally don't think I've ever heard of this. We probably didn't have it in the Midwest until everybody else had Windows 3.1.
Oh, well, my dad worked for Pac Bell, so I think we got a deal. I think that's the only reason we had it. Yeah. And
yes, I'm aware that Windows 3.1 was way before that. That was purposeful, but you don't understand when Nebraska got that.
When did, never mind. That's all I got on this episode. I'm ready to just be done with this one.
Do you realize what this means?
Yeah, but why don't you say it first?
This concludes another episode of the Necronomicon with James Sabata, Don Gillery, and Thomas